Hey, this is Pastor Rick. This is one of my favorite studies. I'm going to talk about Joseph today. We're in the book of Genesis, and we're talking about how to restore God's interrupted plan. God has a plan for us, right? He has a dream and a vision. He wanted us to have a certain kind of life. He had a plan, but the plan went wrong. It did. And so God's goal is to fix it. I want to show you how to do that. I want to show you what the Bible says about how to get your life back on track through this guy's life. Joseph is one of my favorite guys in the Bible. He's one of the most together guys you want to see, and he's young. His head's clear, his mind is sharp. He's an amazing guy. So I'll be back in just a second. We're going to study Genesis. Get your Bible open now. It's going to be Genesis chapter 37. This guy is amazing. Yeah, want to stay there with me. I want to show you how God restores the freedom in the family through Joseph. Good stuff. Stay right there. See you in just a second.
Welcome to Overcoming by Faith's online Bible study. We hope you are blessed by today's message. Now, let's join Pastor Rick.
Well, glad you're back. Listen, we want to get into this today because this is really the main guy, the last guy in the book of Genesis. When you study the book of Genesis, you start off with this incredible story of creation, right? In chapter 1, chapter 2. Then in chapter 3, you have the fall. It fell apart. Chapter 4, you got the kids go haywire. Adam and Eve's son go haywire. Cain slays Abel. And then in chapter 5, you have the generations where he lays out all these people that were born, how they came about. And then in chapter 6, you got Noah, 7, 8, 9. You have this incredible story about how God started all over again because man went haywire and God decided to start all over again. And then in chapter 10, you got the Tower of Babel. And it's a place where God says, listen, I need you guys to be on the same page. You can't have this plan that's contrary to my plan. You want everybody to sit in one little place in the world and never move any place else. So chapter 10, chapter 11. Then in chapter 11, the end of the chapter, chapter 11, the end of the chapter, starting verse 12, Abraham shows up. Great patriarch, amazing guy, and who was phenomenal. After Noah in chapter 6, the next big guy is chapter 12, Abraham. His story is full of excitement. He messes up, he gets up, he lies, he repents, he grows wealth, he saves his nephew. In chapter 14, in chapter 15, he's sorry, don't think he's going to make it. Then in chapter 16, 17, God encourages him. He goes crazy a little bit in chapter 16, ends up having a son with Hagar, Ishmael, and this whole another side of life starts for him. He's got two sons going in two different directions with the Arabs, you see that now, and the Jews. All starts with Abraham making a love decision. Pretty bad decision, but it caused strife for generations. That's another study we're not doing. But you go all the way there through chapter 17, chapter 18, 19. He delivers a lot in chapter 18, 19. Then you get to chapter 20 and on. He has a son finally. It's going to be, my God, it's been 25 years. After he has a son in chapter 20, 21, then Isaac, and you have that incredible story about offering Isaac and will you give God everything? And there's that great exchange with him. And finally, you get on down the road to Jacob. We talked about him last time. Jacob was amazing, who was the son of Isaac. Isaac had, which was the son, Isaac, follow me now, Abraham had Isaac, right? Chapter 20, 21. Then you have Isaac having Jacob and Esau. And they fight each other, get into strife. Now, in our study, we see that Jacob had to run away to hide because he had deceived his brother, stolen his inheritance, and Jacob was just hated by Esau. Well, at the end of the day, they do finally make up, by the way, down the road. Esau and Jacob have this wonderful reunion, and they make up, and they're okay down the road. But for a long season, 20 years, he has to hide out with Laban, his uncle, in Haran. And Haran was the place, remember, in Genesis chapter 11, where Abraham went to Haran, camped there. His daddy died in Haran, Syria, by the way. His dad dies there, and finally, when we get to the story, we now see Jacob, the son of Isaac, has 12 children. Talk about a big rice pot. Wow, 12 children. Well, the 12 children, now catch this, they have one younger brother named Joseph. Now, Jacob's family has kind of rebounded from his chaotic life, but he has now these boys, and they are a mess. Now, if you want to read about what they're like, Genesis 49 describes them. At the end of Jacob's life, he describes each one of them and goes through this list of things they did wrong. I almost wanted to teach it, but just read it on your own in a modern version. Is amazing that they were even ever mentioned in the Bible. These guys had issues, and it shows you that God uses ordinary people, changes the lives of ordinary people. But our goal today is to show you this guy, Joseph, because his story starts in chapter 37. Again, he's the son of Jacob, the guy who used to be a trickster. By the time you get to Genesis 37, he's changed. What's changed in him is he's realized that his ways don't work, and he has this incredible story where he wrestles with an angel. Yes. And he's gone through this long 20-year period with Laban. He's now reunited with his brother Esau. He's repented of his ways. He's sorry. They weep, they cry. They exchange gifts, and then he's off now with his family. And when you get to chapter 37, the Bible says, guess what? Strife shows up again. And the strife this time is not anything that you would expect, because the brothers now hate their brother Joseph. And they gang up on him, and they end up selling him into slavery. So I want to take you on this journey a little bit. I want to show you a few things that start with an errand. Joseph was a young son sent by Jacob, his father, on an errand to find the boys. Where are they? Look at chapter 37, verse 16. So he said, I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are, feeding their flocks. That's what he asked. And the men said, they have departed from here, for I have heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. Now I want you to notice, Daddy sends him on this errand. Go find the boys, where are they? So he goes out looking for them. They say, your brothers went that way. He finds them. Look at now the family tension. Verse 18. Now when they saw him afar off, his brothers saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. That's a pretty bad greeting. We should kill him. Now, why would they want to kill him? Well, you got to go back to chapter 37, the earlier part of the chapter, and you'll see that they found that Joseph was the favorite of his dad, Jacob. Favoritism. And now you see this family culture of favoritism has grown into something ugly. Historically, this has been part of Joseph's life, as a matter of fact, and Jacob's life. Jacob, if you read his story, you'll see in chapter 25, if you read through chapter 36, Jacob had favorite sons. Esau was his favorite. Rebekah was Jacob's favorite. Jacob was Rebekah's favorite. That's Jacob's mama, which is Joseph's daddy. Hope you're with me. So you see, favoritism was something that was in the family generations. Jacob was raised with a favorite, raised loving Esau more than embracing Esau more than he did his other son. So you have this incredible tension. I'm sorry, I got the names wrong. Isaac showed favoritism. Isaac and Rebekah were the moms. Let's get this right. And the moms had two sons, Esau and Jacob. I can get this right if I try. And what happened was Isaac loved Esau, and Jacob was loved by Rebekah. That led to all the strife and tension they had. So now we've got Jacob, who's a father, and guess what he's doing? Duplicating what happened in his family. So now he's chosen Joseph as his favorite, and his brothers hate him. He even brought him a coat of many colors. Like, look, Dad bought me this coat, guys. Look at me. I am like styling. And Jacob could have bought everybody a coat because he was wealthy. He wasn't poor. But he showed so much favoritism to Joseph, they hated him. And so Joseph had these dreams, right? It's a great story. He dreamed that one day all of them would be bowing down and worshiping him. He saw all these corn sheaves bowing to him in the field. He saw the moon and the stars he saw in a dream bowing to him. And he used to tell them this. He used to tell them, I had a dream, guys, that all of you work for me. Imagine telling your younger brother, telling you guys that at Thanksgiving dinner. Well, that's what happened here. And so watch what happens when they see him coming. They say, let's kill him. Let's kill him. Let's get rid of him. Let's get rid of him. Watch this. They say in verse 18, when they saw him afar off, this is in chapter 37, Before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Verse 19, then they said to one another, this is Genesis again, 37, verse 19, look, this dreamer is coming. Come, therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit. And we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams. Now, this is tacky because what they should have done was said, okay, my little brother has dreams, big deal. Let's see what happens. No, they want to snuff him out. Kill him. These are not really spiritual people, by the way. But the 12 tribes of Israel are named after them. Shows you that God uses ordinary people who have issues. Family tension, watch a family intervention. Watch what happens now, verse 21. But Reuben heard it. Reuben, one of the brothers, heard it. He intervenes and he says, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might be delivered, that Reuben might come back and deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So Reuben hears this. They grab Jacob. They say they're going to kill him. And Joseph, brother. Imagine Joseph's emotional moment. He goes and says, hey, brothers. They grab him. They're discussing killing him, throwing him in the pit. Reuben steps in and says, don't do that, guys. Don't kill him. Let's leave him in the pit here. And Reuben's goal was to come back and get him. But I want you to see this ugly tension that's happening. It's horrible. What's your family like? Like this? This is the kind of incredible moment that shows you how bad family can get. Well, what happens is, watch this, verse 23, family abuse starts. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic, took all of his clothes, took the coat of many colors that daddy gave him. And then it says, then they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. That's just, and then that's not the kicker. Here's the kicker. Look at the next verse. Verse 26. I'm sorry, verse 25. They sat down to eat a meal. Throw him in the pit. He's got no water. Then they sit down to eat a meal. Family insensitivity, people. Talk about cold-blooded. And they're sitting there, and the Bible said, then they lifted up their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead. And their enemies, and their camels, rather, were there, not enemies, their camels, bearing spices, balm, myrrh, on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So they see these people coming, and what they do is they say, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to do something. Let's sell him. So here's what you got. You got family tension, family abuse. Now you've got family insensitivity because they're sitting there eating while the guy's sitting in a pit. And now family greed. They decide to sell him. Watch verse 26. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit Judah? You know Judah is, right? Judah prays. You know, a lot of people think about Judah, the guy, the praise guy, the name Judah. Anyway, verse 26. So Judah said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hands be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. That's nice. And his brothers listened. Then Midianites traders passed by, and so the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph. They took Joseph to Egypt. This is a bad moment, but it's family. Family betrayal, family abuse. It's ugly, and it's hidden. Nobody knows it. They keep this secret for years, 20 years. They keep this secret. They keep this secret for a long, long time. They lie about it for a long, long time. He's 17 years old. If you follow Joseph's story, it's pretty fantastic. God provides for him. He becomes this great leader. He's 17. He ends up with a guy in 13 years of slavery. Then he moves to become, after being falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, he goes to this guy named Potiphar's house as a slave. And he serves well. Potiphar elevates him to a high position, and then his wife falls in love with him and falls in lust with him, rather, and tries to get him to do things he shouldn't do. And finally, Joseph, to my surprise, becomes this trapped guy again. She lies on him. He's thrown in prison for trying to molest or attack her, which he never did. She attacked him, tried to get him to be in a sexual relationship, which he refused because he said that's not God's will and it's not right. He's thrown in prison, but while he's in prison, the Pharaoh has a dream he can't interpret. So Joseph ends up interpreting the dream. Somebody tells Pharaoh about Joseph, tells him how amazing he is, gets Joseph all cleaned up. He comes out of prison, interprets the dream, and gets promoted to be the head of Egypt. He becomes the number 2 man in Egypt at 30 years old. So for 13 years, he's been separated from his family. And he prophesies to them there's going to be 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty. And he tells Pharaoh, you got to prepare during the 7 years of plenty for the 7 years of famine. So now 37 years old, he's guided Egypt through a great time of prosperity, and he saved all of this food for the future. And then halfway through the pandemic, halfway through the next 7 years, which were supposed to be famine years, his brothers show up. He's now 40 years old, thereabout. 39 to 40 years old. They haven't seen him since he was 17. They didn't recognize him. And Joseph sits there, and Joseph takes his brothers through a number of experiences, and his life is changed. And God brings deliverance to this family. I'm going to come back in the next section and talk about Joseph's healing moment and the lessons we learned from it. Genesis, boyfriend, it's a great study. We'll finish with Joseph the next time. I'll see you. And I got 3 questions I want you to think about between now and our next study. Do you currently have family members that you just don't like? That just don't like you, rather. They just don't like you. Do you have family members you can't explain why they don't like you? They just don't like you. So do you, here's the question. Do you have family members that just don't like you? Number 2, are you a victim of family abuse? Do you have a story that maybe you've never told? Number 3, have you been able to recover from your painful family experiences? How have you gotten through it? I'll tell you what, my friend, I'm going to leave these questions up on the screen for you to think about. It's been fun. I'll see you next time in our study. God bless you. Join me next time. We're going to talk about Joseph and how it all comes together in Genesis. See you next time.
We encourage you to check out and share this message as well as other messages via the Overcoming by Faith website or the OBF app.
Hey, make sure you join me for all the amazing times we're going to have about questions and answers around the book of Genesis. You know this book can change your life. It's the beginning of everything, God's original plan. And we're going to take some live questions. And if you can't be there in person, be there on demand. It's going to be great. I'll see you in the book of Genesis.